So it's me, JJ, the owner of Bright Idea Records and the dude that did video games and more. Anyways, I've been playing Grand Theft Auto. It says right there a little bit about that. But I was just looking for some Grand Theft Auto 4 patch update kind of mod files just to make it nicer, a little more modern and relevant. And I found this guy right here, Zach, and he's from Arizona, just like me. He's from Phoenix, and he has a channel on Archive, Internet Archive, archive.org, just like me. Hey, and oh, he's got some Grand Theft Auto 4 play videos, just like me. Hey, that's cool. Oh, by the way, he's the nephew to the Doomsday murder people. Like, I don't even remember that. That was like 6 years ago. But I have a stomach ache and I don't feel like playing video games or working on anything. I think I'm just gonna watch this and try to see how crazy shit is. Like, or was. I just don't know anything about this. But I know this guy is just like me. Lives in Arizona, plays Grand Theft Auto 4, has been through some shit. All right. Let's see what the hell I'm even talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Do I need to hit continue here?
I'm recording to the cloud right now, so we're good to go.
Cool.
Actually, yeah. All right. Zach Cox, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I've never gone to talk to you on the record, but we've always been in touch. And just so people know, Zach, you are Lori Vallow's nephew.
Correct. Yep. I am Adam Cox's son, her brother.
So Charles Vallow was Uncle Charles to you.
Yep.
Tylee Ryan was like a sister.
Yep.
JJ Vallow was like your little brother.
Lori was
JJ
like a
who?
second mom.
And you lived with them.
I lived with them January 2018 to about May of 2018, and then I went back home for the summer and came back to Arizona September-ish of 2018 and lived with Lori until about January of 2019 when things really picked up and snapped off with Charles.
So that's huge. I really, of course, want to get your reaction on the case, the death investigation with Charles Vallow. And now, obviously, everyone knows that Chandler PD has submitted their case for one charge of conspiracy to commit murder to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. So it's up to MCAO to actually charge her. But this is huge for Charles. But we're going to go all the way back to, I just want you to tell me what 2018 to 2019 was like. You saw the change in her. And that date, 2018, October 2018 specifically, the 26th, when she met Chad Daybell in Utah for preparing the people, that's when prosecutors saying this is when it began for them.
Wait,
you really saw how everything unfolded in the household. Just take me back to that and how she was acting.
Yeah, so for me, it was 2017. They had just moved to Arizona from Hawaii. And I went out there with Colby and my dad for spring break. And they were all gone one day. Like everyone in the family went to do something or go see a movie. And I kind of hung out at the house with Lori. And she started talking about all these books that she's been reading. Chad Daybell books. I forgot what this other book was called, but it's really controversial in the LDS church for the beliefs. I'm trying to remember what it is. I'll say it if it pops up. And talking about Julie Rose podcast and listening to those things. And she said some scary stuff that I was sitting there with JJ and one of my other cousins. And to me, I was, I think 17, 18. She was saying, if you watch an R-rated movie or say a bad word, there's always an evil spirit that's screaming in your face, like encouraging it. Of course. I was on my phone like, wow, that's crazy. So, time goes on. I move in with them and start working in Arizona. And she spent a lot of time at the temple. Charles would go on trips, so I'd help with JJ for business. So I'd help watch JJ, hang out with Tylee. She'd be at the temple for about 8 hours a day, like a full-time job. sometimes. And I think on Thursdays she actually did work at the temple in Gilbert. So a lot of the changes I saw was she started to, like, if we were driving in the car, instead of listening to the radio or music, it would be a Julie Rowe podcast. Or I forgot his name, maybe Mike Stroud had a podcast, a lot of really religious outside of the church podcasts.
Oh,
So she was
okay.
always listening to something from these beliefs. And change wise, because I had talked to Charles about it, because she was telling us that she never had to eat again, never had to go to the bathroom, that she was invincible. When she was saying these things, it was
She'd become an
towards
Assassin's
January of
Creed video
2019
game
when she had
character.
kicked Charles out of the house. That's when I had left, and that's when she was saying
As far
those
as I
things
know, she's
mostly.
still alive. Been incarcerated.
That was
I think.
January, late January 2019, and we see the body camera footage.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Charles is, pleading with Gilbert PD because he wanted her mentally evaluated, and all his stuff was gone. We know that story.
That was the day
It
that
was hard. It was hard for you though, and a lot of people have questions about this. He was contacting you. He was contacting Tyler. What was he saying, and why was that difficult for you? What were you doing?
so January, I can't remember the day. I was really
Probably
upset.
the 30th. Around, I think the
It was
30th.
around, yeah, it was the very end of January. I know that
Yeah.
because we had just moved into that house at January 1st. We were only in that new house for about a month. Lori had told me that Charles was dead and there was a zombie living in him, and she was really manipulative about some things before that with Charles, with the entire family. So the entire family's cutting Charles off. She sends this text, me and Charles are in a big fight. If he calls you, don't answer. So everyone in my family listened to that and instantly sided with Lori, because Lori was saying that he was having an affair. So come that day, she tells me that he's a zombie, he's dead. There's someone living inside him named Ned Schneider. And this is the day that it kind of snapped for me. Because previously I had discussed this
I
with
would think
Charles.
so.
And I said, this was before really everything happened. But I was like, what do you believe? Because he had asked me too. I mean, do you believe the things Lori's saying? And I was like, well, I don't. And I don't want you to get mad if you believe him. And he said, I don't believe him. But, it makes her happy. She's taking care of JJ. She's making dinner. Like she was
I
living a
guess
regular
that's his
life,
son.
believing these things. And at the time, obviously, she ended up hurting others and hurting herself, but none of us knew
JJ
it
is
would get
the
this
son.
big.
That's what I meant.
And we just said, she's not hurting anyone. She's not hurting herself. Like, for believing these things, it's, if anyone believes anything, whether it be politics, religion, sports, it was her belief and it wasn't affecting us. So he said, just nod your head and keep her happy, because she was happy, and they were happy until that October where she had met Chad, where, according to those documents, is really when everything started to plan out.
The documents that Chad emailed about light and dark spirits, or who she was in her past life,
Yep.
and other people who they were in their past lives, in her circle. Like, had you seen these on paper? Has she talked about them? Were these like very confidential to her?
She was very confident. She was really confidential about them. She had one where she was out and about and she had asked me to text her. I sent it over to you, I think, one of those pictures, but she had asked me to text her a picture of some page she left on the printer. And I went downstairs, took a picture, texted it to her. And I think it was something about their past lives and people that they knew. Some of the other experiences I had was they filmed one of their podcast episodes downstairs when I was upstairs, and she had told me, if I come downstairs, it'd be super quiet and not interrupt, things like that. And that was with, Melanie Gibb, Jason Mao, and I forgot his name, but he was part of their podcast too. There was a fourth guy.
Thor?
Thor. Yep, it was Thor. So they filmed that podcast down below, but sorry, I get sidetracked because there's just so many things that pop up.
No, it's okay. I mean, this is a tight group, a tight-knit group doing the podcast, I assume. Did they worship Chad? How much did they talk about Chad? Or was he kind of just behind the scenes still at that point?
Lori was, to me, Chad was just an author that Lori and Alex read his books. I didn't know that they had Chad, they were meeting up with, things like that. because Al actually gave me one of his books one time. Chasing Paradise is the name, and he said, "If you read this, I'll give you $100." Because he wanted me, and it was about. They really believed it was a true story that this girl.
But Alex was really into it too, not just Lori.
Yeah,
Alex and Lori were both on the same wavelength with these books. They're always fans,
yeah,
and wanted to bring you in or whoever would listen.
right. Yeah, the thing about Alex too is mentally he was always off. Like he was a weird guy, and he was definitely easy to manipulate. And I think Lori knew that, and she was very manipulative. But he full-hearted
Liars
believed these
typically
things.
are.
She had told Al that she talked to Jesus Christ face to face one time, and Al went and told his bishop that, and then his bishop was kind of like, "That's kind of strange. That's an awesome experience, but I've never heard of someone saying that before." And Lori had gotten mad at Al about it because Al would go and say these things to other people that sounded crazy, which were crazy, and she knew that, and it would upset her that he would go tell other people that. So that's how that really was. They had that dynamic of always, same thing with him. He was a truck driver, and instead of like listening to music or the radio, he was listening to religious podcasts and these I don't know what the right word is for these books, these preparing a people books, maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of about the end of times and things. But going back to that day with Charles, so we get into that fight around the afternoon, and I start packing up my things, and Tylee comes upstairs because Lori had asked for Tylee to go pick up JJ from school, and take him to do something fun. So Tylee had asked me if I wanted to go with her to pick him up from school and go do something fun. So I said yes. So finish packing my things, load up my car. We take her car, go pick up JJ, and then we went to eat at Freddy's. He loved going to Freddy's right by his school. And then we went to the movies, and we saw a movie, and JJ loved to play in the play area at the movies. So he did that while we were watching a movie. And I came back and got in my car, and I went to my grandparents. And my whole thought process during this time was that I don't like conflict. I know Lori and Charles have had fights before. I know this one was a little different with why she was fighting with him. And I really, to be honest, I just didn't want to be involved. It was something that I thought they would work out, things like that. So it was a long day. I get to my grandparents around like 7:30 at night because they know Charles is having a fight. Charles and Lori were having a fight. And I said, "Hey, can I stay with you guys for a little bit if that doesn't pan out?" And they said, "Sure." And I regret it. I plugged in my phone, set it down, and I went to sleep that night. And that's when I woke up to 30 texts from Charles. That was the night that, and I should have called him. That's probably one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't call him that day driving to my grandparents saying Lori's going crazy. He had canceled like that. That's one of my biggest regrets with this whole thing. And
so you had witnessed that she was upset. You're on that other side where Charles is coming back from Houston and you were with Lori and she's saying that he's a zombie. He's Ned or Nick Schneider. She cancels his flight, etc. The truck is taken. His stuff. I don't know. How does one person go about removing all these belongings too?
So she had Melanie Gibb come over and help her out. And that's when me, Tylee, and JJ were gone.
So it was just her and Melanie Gibb
packed up
taking out all his clothes, his laptop, or whatever he had.
So Charles had said too, once he found his stuff, because I woke up to about 30 texts from him, and I woke up at 7 and called him instantly. And he said he was at the house and he found his stuff. She hid all of his stuff. She packed it up in boxes and put it behind the food storage in this closet because she had a ton of food storage too. So she left it all behind this stuff thinking he would never find it. Or it got to a point where she eventually told him where his truck was. And there were some other things that happened. I think he had gone to JJ's school that day too to pick him up with the rental car. And he took her purse, and that was that whole thing.
That's a little body camera footage, and Lori's telling her side to the cops, and eventually she goes and gets mentally evaluated, but she's released like that.
Right. So past that, then she's fit for trial.
And you went to your grandparents talking about Barry and Janice. I'm interested in what they thought?
And that's the other thing is I was in a tough situation that
What did
this
you
is
say?
probably my biggest regret is I should have done more back then. Everyone asked that, then she's fit for trial.
And you went to your grandparents talking about Barry and Janice.
Oh, his grandma's
I'm
name
interested
is
in what
Janice.
they
Okay.
thought.
And that's the other thing is I was in a tough situation that this is probably my biggest regret is I should have done more back then. Everyone in the family hated Charles. No one was talking to him, answering his calls, texts, going off on him because they believe.
Who is everyone? First off, so people know who's everyone. The majority.
The whole Cox family. Barry, Janice, Summer, her husband, Colby, Kelsey, everyone took Lori's side immediately without listening to Charles.
They assume she's telling the truth.
Yep.
He's having an affair.
Yep.
And we don't want anything to do with it. We're not talking to him.
My dad, me, Brandon was monitored by Melanie when it came to talking to Charles because she was obviously really tight-knit with Lori. But we were the only ones talking to Charles. And I really felt like I was an undercover agent talking to Charles because if they saw his name pop up on my phone, I knew, there'd be conflict, there would be a fight. So I would be texting Charles, call him when I was out on my own or driving around. And this went on for really that whole period up until he was killed, from about January to July.
When you say monitored, Melanie Pulowski monitored her ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. What do you mean, checking the phone for Charles?
Not checking it, but Brandon wouldn't be able to get away to actually speak with Charles. He never really had the right opportunity. They had the kids they had to watch. He couldn't really get time to himself. So I remember one time too, Charles was saying that he's going to move back to Houston with JJ. And this was, Kay came down to visit Charles and stay with him. And he said they were moving. If I wanted to come by, because I would go by the house, see them for a little bit when I could. I was going to real estate school at the time. And after class, I'd go and see them and then head home. But he said one point they were moving back to Houston, which they did. And I told my grandparents that I was going to go see Charles and JJ before he left. Well, my grandma had texted Lori about that and said, hey, just a heads up, because I saw that she left this text, her phone on the computer. Phone on the computer, sorry. She left her phone on the table in the kitchen, and it said, hey, Zach is going to see Charles and JJ, just wanted you to give you a heads up. Because at this point, I would text Lori occasionally to check in. I think this is when she was in Hawaii, kind of off and doing her own thing. This is when no one really knew where she was at.
Yeah.
And I was worried about her. I mean, this was a really confusing time for me to where all this stuff is going on. I know if I get caught talking to Charles, I could get kicked out of this house. I know that I love Lori and I was worried about her at the time. And I want to make everyone happy. I don't want people to think I'm siding, which, to be honest, I wish I would have just been more bold about it. It's something that I regret. I should have just instantly stuck up with Charles's side and let the family know that's where I was at, because he was 100% right.
Yeah, the problem with being bold is most people don't even give a shit, and they're trying not to be involved. So the way he was trying not to be involved, yeah, that's what happens when you're bold. You end up scaring those people away even more than you already have.
And
so really, there's no
it kind of just
good way to play
pissed
that
me
outcome.
off that she had said that text to Lori like I was doing something bad, that was such an awful thing that I was going to see Charles and JJ. So that's how they viewed it. That's how everyone viewed this situation with Charles when it happened. Another key thing that Charles said was that everything Lori is accusing Charles of doing is what she was actually doing. So she was accusing Charles of cheating with, prostitutes, whoever, had this girlfriend in Texas, when she's really having an affair with Chad Daybell. And then she had accused Charles, my dad, Brandon, and me this is what we found out. I mean, it's such a lengthy story, but after Charles was killed, no one in the family told us. Colby, my grandparents, no one texted us. So my dad's in town in Arizona, and we're house sitting at my Aunt Summer's house because their family's in New York, and we're watching their dog. And my dad flew in Wednesday night. Thursday comes, which is the morning that Charles was killed. And, I go to work that day. My dad does whatever with my grandparents. I think he went to go eat with them and then was at the house. And then that night we went to play basketball. Friday comes, we went to see our second cousins that we were related with. Still no word from Charles. We sent him a couple texts, and it was weird because he's normally always on his phone. So at this point, Charles has been dead for basically 24 hours, and we still don't know. No one told us, texted us. They all knew because they were going through Charles's phone and saw that me and my dad were texting with, and Brandon were texting with Charles, the family, the Cox family. So Friday comes, we go visit with second cousins. I get off work, go to sleep that night. Texted Colby if he wanted to go play basketball, no response. Obviously, we texted Al if he wanted to go to the comedy club to go do something, no response. So no one's responding to us, no one's talking to us. Saturday comes and we drive up to Tucson to see my dad's friend, to visit with him. And while we're driving up there, we were seriously like, did they do something to Charles? Because we haven't heard from him in 2 days. Calls, texts, and he was always on his phone. He would at least respond. So we get there and we start talking to my dad's friend in Tucson, and we're like, man, we haven't heard from Charles. Like, Lori and Al have been super crazy. And at this point, me and Lori have zero relationship. She had said some more rumors about me that she had spread to the family and to Melanie, Brandon's ex-wife, because at this point I was living with Brandon and Melanie. So I experienced the same thing with their marriage, again. And it's just a mess. So
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I'm sorry if I go off on tangents.
No, you're not. I've never heard your perspective this way, because you're in this basically the front row seat, seeing everybody, right? And this is July 12th, July 13th by the time you haven't heard about Charles, because he was killed July 11th, and then you find out everything, and it's got to be hard knowing that's your uncle. But did you believe it was self-defense?
So so he gets killed July 11th. I'm looking at the calendar here for 2019 July. He gets killed the 11th in the morning. It's July 13th, Saturday afternoon. We're in Tucson. And we're telling my dad's friend, like, we think Lori and Al might have done something because it's just so weird that we haven't heard from him and how crazy they've been. And my dad's friend goes, well, how do you spell his name? I want to look him up, like, on social media or online to see what it looks like. So he Googles Charles Vallow, and all these news reports pop up. Texas man fatally shot and killed by brother-in-law. And when he said that, he read that out loud. And, like, I get goosebumps still talking about it, but, like, my heart dropped. And we pulled up the article, and instantly reading it, saying that it was self-defense and Charles hit Al with a baseball bat. If Charles really hit Al with a baseball bat, Al would be dead. Al would be seriously injured, not able to shoot a gun. He wouldn't have one tiny scratch, on the back of his head.
Yeah. He would be blacked out, knocked out at the least.
At least knocked out, right? Bleeding, needing to go to the hospital. He would. So we called Kay that day, and Kay and Larry, and they were in shock. They had said that no one believed it, really. No one believed the story. I'm trying to remember exactly what we talked about, but Kay and Larry were on speakerphone. We were on speakerphone, and I was just sitting there with my shirt over my head down. I literally could not believe this had happened. Like, they murdered Charles. There's no doubt about it. So, and then, when you see the footage of the body cam of the police, he's laying there with the bat perfectly next to him, and his flip flops are still on. I mean, if there was a scuffle, at least like to me, flip flops are coming off if there's a scuffle. I mean, there's just so many things that stuck out to me when I saw that video that didn't add up. And the baseball was placed perfectly, didn't roll around. Like it just the bat, sorry, not the baseball bat. It just didn't make sense. Off the rip, we didn't believe it. Lori at this point had told the family that my dad, me, Brandon, Charles were all conspiring against her, trying to get her insurance money, which is what she really was going after with Charles. Like he had said, everything she's doing is what she's accusing him of doing. So hearing the news that she's at least getting, I know Al's dead, but he'd be charged for some of those things. And I wholeheartedly believe too that they killed Al. I mean, the timing is insane. Right after Tammy gets exhumed,
The day after.
That's crazy. But as far as what was the charge called? Belief to commit.
No, this is a conspiracy to commit first degree murder, which we've been waiting for Chandler PD to. I mean, they said in last August, they were close. Whatever close meant, 6 months or so around that time. That was like the time frame. But here we are. April 1st is when they did it, and they waited to announce it now after the grand jury indictment. It's all timed up. So, how do you feel for Charles?
It's 2 years too late, but I'm glad that it's finally coming. I think the ball was completely dropped when it happened. I think Lori was in that video. There's just so many things that are just so suspicious that I don't know how there was an investigation immediately, or more questions or more belief, because that whole body cam footage, the vibe is off with everybody. And Tylee obviously looked very uncomfortable when they came back, which was unfortunate that they had dragged
She's
her.
the only one that looks very uncomfortable. I mean, Alex, he's holding onto his head. He's saying it's self-defense. Lori's smiling, wide smile. She's laughing. She's having a good time, or, friendly, not showing any concern or sadness, knowing that her husband, even though estranged, has just been shot.
And different stories too.
I don't know if anyone's asked, what did Tylee have to say about this?
The last time that I saw Tylee was that Saturday we found out Charles was killed. We drove back to Tucson, back from Tucson to Phoenix to my grandparents' house. And Tylee was there, and we get in there, and this is really where everything happens with our family, where we get into a huge fight with our grandparents. My dad gets in a fight with his parents. I get in a fight with them, and they kick us out, and we moved to Kansas. Or I moved back to Kansas with my parents. One, because we were scared of Al and Summer. That night, Al and Lori, because we stayed at Summer's house, and they knew where we were at. We stayed up all night because we were scared they were going to come in there and do something to us.
Dude.
And then flew out the next day. So that last day, that Saturday, we get there, and Tylee's in the kitchen crying to my grandma. And she's hugging her, and Tylee's getting ready to leave. And the thing about Tylee is, if she truly believed, that my dad, Charles, me, and Brandon were conspiring against her mom, she would have said something to us. Tylee was very boisterous when it came to conflict. And she was not, she was walking out because she was leaving as we were getting there. And sorry. She, as she's walking out, she's looking at me, and I can just tell that she wanted to say something to me. Oh, sorry.
Take your time.
Um, I could just tell that she wanted to say something about what happened on Thursday. And she started walking towards me, and my grandma kind of like guided her shoulders and walked her out. And that was the last time that I saw Tylee.
And then they moved to Idaho.
Yeah, and at this point, she leaves, and we get in this huge fight with my grandparents about how they think they went through Charles's phone. Lori had Charles's phone after he was killed for a few days, and probably deleted a ton of stuff. Saw all our messages talking with Charles, and
What are these messages saying?
Charles wanted my dad to come down to talk with Lori and record what Lori was saying to play to a bishop, because Charles thought if he could get her excommunicated from the church, that she wouldn't be able to go to the temple anymore, which she loved going to the temple, and she'd snap out of it. And obviously no one in the family would help. Lori wasn't talking to me or Charles at this point, avoiding us. So he asked my dad for help. So that's why my dad flew down. So our plan was to, like, my dad wanted to meet with Lori, record her, and, you know, help Charles out. And they saw these texts that, you know, this whole time I was talking with Charles and going to see him and JJ and whatever the case was. Because at this point, too, Lori had gotten back with Charles and moved to Houston, right? So Lori's been living in Houston with Charles, and then he rents out a place for Tylee and Lori and JJ to be in Phoenix around the family still. And I never knew where this place was. This is where they ended up shooting Charles.
Yeah, Chandler.
Yeah, they never told me they moved back. I found out they moved back from Tylee, just texting me that they're back in Arizona, because she had driven out to Arizona by herself.
And so you never talked to Tylee again after you saw her, and you never texted, never called?
The whole family had blocked us on everything.
Oh.
All social media, because they all took Lori's side. No one reached out to me to ask me if I was conspiring against Lori.
You had no idea where they left to?
No idea. No contact with them.
You're in Kansas. Everyone's just split up.
Everyone's split up. Family is destroyed. Like that. And obviously they all sided with Lori.
Sounds like a
no
very
one
excellent
asked us
manipulator.
anything. You know, is this true? Are you guys?
At least when people don't
no
know
one
they're being
even called to say,
manipulated by her.
are you guys plotting? Because she had said that we were plotting to kill Lori for her insurance money. Me, Charles, Brandon, and my dad.
Did she even have a life insurance policy?
I have no idea. I know that's what she was doing against Charles and Chad eventually with Tammy and all that stuff. But that's really how it ended. I mean,
Zach,
yeah.
I could talk to you for hours. I mean, this is a lot, and I'm just, I'm sorry, because all of you in the family are affected somehow. Everyone.
Yep.
Your grandparents, your dad.
Shit, man, I'm affected. This old news.
Your aunt, everyone has been impacted somehow. Whether you guys agreed with each other or not, you guys fought.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, it has been, and not just us two. I mean, all of Tylee's friends, JJ's friends, JJ's school. I mean, we went to JJ's school for his birthday to drop off some balloons, and they've got a ribbon on a tree for him and a ribbon on a tree for Tylee, and the teachers just loved him. Like,
there's just this ripple effect.
All these people, they're so selfish that they didn't think it would matter. I mean, they thought they were doing their own thing.
So there's one step in a direction where, I know she's innocent till proven guilty, but something has been done I know you said it's a little too late, but still for Charles, Tammy, JJ, Tylee, Brandon's case is still open. I mean, it's been a long way, a long time coming. Um, Zach, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for just being brave. I know we've been talking for a while. Thank you for just like speaking about this and opening up. I think that helps in a way too for you to just like get it out there and get out your perspective and your side. It's a lot to deal with that at such a young age. This was like 2 years ago for you. Like you're now a different person too.
Yeah,
So
it's been a long, really long 2 years, and just been tough every day. You know, there was a point too in 2019 where
Every day
we were
tough?
talking with Brandon
Gee,
and
I
Kay and
can't
Larry. That's
relate.
kind of how we were hearing updates, and like
I'm being sarcastic.
hearing that Chad Daybell's wife died, that Brandon got shot at, that Al died, Tammy's body's exhumed, and that's when, you know, kind of when things blew up. But every day, you know, we were really scared that Al was going to come kill us. We really were, for like 2 years until we found out he was dead. We were really worried that we were going to be next, because if you look at it, Charles, Brandon, me, and although they didn't have anything to gain from us insurance wise, but they killed Charles, who was against Lori. They tried to kill Brandon, who was against Lori, and then you got me and my dad, who were against Lori and her whatever her case was, whatever she believed. Right? She thought we were going to kill her for insurance money, and I think there
or maybe allegedly you're a dark spirit.
A dark spirit, that too. She could have said the same thing about us.
A dark spirit.
The other thing too was there was that Rexburg PD body cam footage where she had said something about my dad chasing after her, tracking her down in Rexburg, that they played in that court case, that preliminary hearing for Chad. They never showed it, but they had mentioned something like that. And I was like, they wholeheartedly believe these things, that to either give them an excuse to do what they did. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Zach, I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate it. Yep. Thank you for letting me come chat.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon, man. Take care.
You too. See you, man.
All right.
Bye.
That's heavy, dude. It's fucking heavy. God damn. Old news. Wonder if he plays video games good.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Doug Dimmadome. That's right. Hope y'all are all having a great day. Today what we got for you is GTA 4 with the countryside. That's right. Check this out. We've got mountains. We've got countryside. We're going to explore all of this today. And then over here we've got Liberty freaking City. So there's a lot going on with this mod, and originally, and this is the actual quote from the mod developer in the description of the mod, is this great mod was created a long time and is intended to brighten your pastime in anticipation of GTA 5 because there are a lot of things that will be in Los Santos: mountains, rivers, snow, forests, and much more. So English probably isn't this man's native language, but he was very excited for GTA 5 before it came out, so he created this mod. We can even check it out on the in-game map. It shows up in here, and wow, this is how big this is. Look how crazy. That's what she said. But I do want to talk about the GTA 4 beta map. So we don't have any official images of that. We only have strings of code and things like that. So for those of you who didn't know, GTA 4 was originally going to take place not only in Liberty City, but the whole state of Liberty. It was called Liberty State. Kind of like in GTA 5, how there's Los Santos, but Los Santos and all the towns, Sandy Shores, Paleto Bay, all that is in the state of San Andreas. Well, that would have been the same thing for GTA 4. It was going to feature an upstate area that would have had mountains, kind of like we have right here. It was also going to have a forest, the woods, a countryside with farms like and things presumably like that. So that was the GTA 4 beta. That never happened, but with this mod, this allows me to like envision what this would have been like. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and explore this whole thing, because it's very, very big. It's
like you had Los Santos in GTA 5, but you know, in San Andreas was San Andreas, but you also got to kind of go to Las Vegas. See, that was kind of a trip when you got into the airport. Not spoiler alert, I don't know if you've done that in the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but getting the airplane and going to Las Vegas. It's a trip, and it's kind of like, are we still in the state of, you know, is this a country? What the heck? Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Yeah.
Fast, and there's a lot to check out. All right, so entering the countryside, here we go. There's a giant bridge, a very nice entrance, and then these people are trying to kill me. So there is also traffic here, which is pretty cool. There was a lot of time and effort, now we can tell, that went into this mod, because
Nice
it's a lot
background
better
music.
than most, per se. And I feel like we're in like another country here, because that's how these people drive in these other countries, like crazy.
Well,
But, well, technically
On the
we
other
are
side of the
in
road
another
is pretty
country. We're in the
crazy, huh?
countryside. Haha, bad joke. All right, so starting things off, the first thing we're obviously taking note of is not only my bad driving, but the forests. And it probably would have been better if I got in a helicopter and flew around, which we could do. And it's so nice that all of this is actually solid and explorable. And a lot of these mods will like fall through the map. And I'm kind of thinking we need to just climb to the top of the mountain like Rocky did in Rocky 4. And we need to scream, Drago! Alright, we're going to take the easy way out and get an overview of all this before we drive around, because I feel like it's going to be pretty boring if I just drive around. So, over here it looks like this would be the foundation to some buildings. This right here might be like a small township or something along those lines. That would obviously be perfect for that if we just had like a small little town here with some stores and a restaurant, like a Cluck and Bell,
like a
obviously.
Sim City or something.
This reminds me a lot of San Andreas, honestly, like the countryside in that
I
game.
was
So
just saying that.
that's that. Even the dirt road. And over here we've got this inlet of water, which looks to have a dam not only in front of us, but behind us as well. Now that is pretty cool. There's another bridge down there. So I want to take a look at this dam here and see if that's what it is, or... I love in games when there's like secrets hidden behind waterfalls. I think there's one in Saints Row 2, which was really cool. There was like a secret army base behind the waterfall. But this is nice. Just a little river here. And on top of here, I'm guessing would be a lake. So one detail too that I do want to note is that the map is actually colored. And you can see that, obviously, if we open it up. Not only is it colored here, but also the mini-map. And I wonder if the mod creator was inspired by any sort of game to create the look of this, or...
Is this on Nexus mods? Because, like, I don't know. I really don't do too much modding. I'm kind of a purist that way. Of course, if I do mod, I'll just, you know, go balls to the wall. But, yeah, man. Is that, like, something I can get? What does that say? Maybe there's a link that I was just curious for anybody that might be watching this and getting itchy to check it out. Oh, it looks like there is a mod here. Cool. Anyhow, that's not the same guy. What did that guy say his name was? What the fuck? Does Zach produce this or what? I'm confused. What the heck?
Oh, whoa, where's that plane going? Oh, my goodness gracious, are you serious? Did that just happen?
Yeah. All right. You know what? I guess that's that. I just thought I had to what do I say? What, do you want some insight? Like, what does JJ think about religion and murder and doomsday cults and the end of days. What do I think about? And zombies and soul possession? Well, for starters, tune in next time, and I'll check you later. Thanks for hanging out.